I've lived 1,000 lives. I've piloted 1,000 souls. I've killed and fought and died just for another role.
This is the Happy Jacks RPG podcast, a roundtable discussion that's a mix of friendship, humor, unbridled enthusiasm, and tabletop RPG topics sent in from around the world.
Just for another role.
And that's why Jameson isn't allowed to tell stories when the camera's off.
Hello,
I'm a little horrified.
and welcome to Season 31, Episode 12 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. My name is Kimmy,
My name is Riley.
I'm Jameson.
I'm Nick.
and in today's episode, Richard asks how to get players to grab plot hooks. Emily asks how to entice board game players to play RPGs, and Daniel asks about our favorite published adventures for non-fantasy campaigns. If you'd like to contribute a question or topic to the show, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. Please, for the love of God, send in emails. Please. Do the thing. Okay.
If it is any sort of incentive, I can read them with a really bad accent. If that's not an incentive, I can not read them with a really bad accent. But
I can read
what-
them
which-
impressions of other celebrities that don't sound like the person I'm trying to make.
Oh,
sound
that's
like.
good. That's good.
Yes.
That's also a side trick for getting NPC voices. Do an
Yeah.
impression of celebrities that you don't do very well, and now you have an NPC character voice.
Hey, that's very good. That's very. I always like to say, "Hey, I'm Beyonce." That's my Beyonce impression.
Spot on.
Is Beyonce here?
I swear they were just here.
Beyonce? It's weird
Yes.
that she walks in and says, "Hey, it's Beyonce."
Right.
She does that.
Announcing our new AP starring Beyonce. No, just kidding. It's not. I mean, if she wants to,
Would
I'm
it be called-
100% up for it. But
Tweet
yeah.
at
Would it be called
Beyonce.
Beyblade?
Right.
Oh.
Oh my God, now I want to make that indie TTRPG. Oh,
Friend of the podcast, Beyonce.
yeah,
Gonna be-
exactly.
Get her in here.
All right. Announcements. The chat is asking for the Russian accent. So, Happy Jacks will be at Strategicon Orkong 29. You have to actually understand what I'm saying for this. Okay, so Happy Jacks is going to be at Strategicon, officially, again, returning to our convention. Very exciting. Yeah, so it's technically Orcon 2023 because each one of the three cons has its own little name. This is going to be February 17th through 20th at the Hilton LAX in Los Angeles. I'm going to be running games. Anyone else running games?
I'll be running games.
Woohoo! Jameson.
I might.
We'll be running
I'm a
games.
very strong yes.
Do it.
Don't
I'll
disappoint
be
the
at a
fans. You'll be
different
running
con
games.
down the street.
Yeah.
Talking to Dr.
Yeah, and Riley will be very nearby, so
Yes,
you
Dr.
should come
Who.
hang out and we'll do drinks. Yes.
Doctor Who's, because there's many of
Well, I'm
them.
talking to one singular one, so I
Ah.
can actually say it the right way.
Gotcha.
Ah.
Yes.
I wish I was talking to more than one. Again.
Oops. Okay. All right. So, yes. So, Strategicon, Orcon 2023. We're going to do the show that week, February 17th through 20th. We're going to be doing the show on Saturday night live from the convention.
It's Saturday Night Live.
Yeah. From the convention, probably drunk. And for those, we haven't done these in a long time, so there's probably a lot of listeners who are not familiar with how we do our live con show. We don't read emails for those. Everyone talks about the games they either played in or ran, and we are usually a little tipsy, or a lot tipsy, or very tipsy. Sometimes I don't remember the ending.
Unlike shows here where no one's ever tipsy.
No one ever tipsy.
Ava.
Yeah, so it's more like a slice of life. Like, this is what I ran. This is what I thought went well. This is what I thought went badly. This is what I played. This is what went well. This is what I thought went badly. Like,
And we also invite people who played to come up and share their experiences as well. So if you come to Orcon and you play in one of our games, you too can be on the show.
yes. Even if you're not playing in one of our games, that's the real key. Like, if you're at Orcon at all, come hang out. It'll be on the schedule. As soon as we find out where we are, because every time they give us a different place that we're going to record the podcast live, wherever we find out which part of the hotel we'll be in for the live show, we'll start tweeting it out. We'll leave flyers everywhere, stuff like that. So if you're going to be there, come say hi, hang out, get a drink.
Or
meet us.
several.
Or several, or many. Yeah, so-
Hear about indie RPGs before that they are announced on our show.
Yes.
Segue.
Well, yeah, but okay. I just want to like for a moment say like how excited I am about this, because the con is like one of my very favorite things we do, and it was one of the things that really solidified, and it's how we found a lot of each other.
Yeah,
Like a lot of the people who became like hosts on the show or who have become great members of our community, it's because we met up at con.
Yes.
And so it's very like I'm a big, I don't know if you've noticed, I'm a big person on community. I like building communities. And so I'm so excited to go back to like our community con. I did it the last one, but it was like it's like when the water's really cold and you like try and just tip your toe in. It's like,
Yeah.
do I feel safe about this? Does this feel okay? So I will be masking the whole time, but I'm still I felt very safe last time, and
Are you bringing the
the
air
filter again?
Yeah.
Probably.
I'm thinking about that too.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. So I have a couple in my classroom. Maybe we'll just borrow a whole bunch. So we'll have the Happy Jacks air filters to go around for the Happy Jacks games.
Oh, we have a new merch for the store.
Your 800 square foot HEPA air filter. Slightly very used. It'll be fine.
HEPA Jack.
Yeah.
Happy Jack.
Happy Jacks filtered air. Sorry. That's yeah.
I love it.
They don't smell like apples.
No. All right. Oh yes, moving on.
See, this was the segue I was trying
There
to
you go.
get
I
to.
know
Yeah,
you're doing
about
great.
our-
You're
yeah.
doing great.
Okay.
Indie
You were
game.
just too early, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had to like, wax poetic for a bit. All right, our indie designer of the month is Gem Room Games, the creative team up of Dan Phipps and Callie Lowry, who were supposed to be here tonight, but it was like very sad they weren't able to be here.
no!
Yeah, so they'll hopefully join us remotely like very soon. They had child illness, nothing super serious, but like as a fellow toddler parent, like I was like, don't worry, I get it. Also, they're doing the dreaded like crib to bed transition.
Ah.
That's hard.
That was a rough time.
Yeah. So anyway, their work can be found at shop.gemroomgames.com for physical copies or gemroomgames.itch.io for digital copies. And featured this week, the one we're talking about, is going to be High Magic Low Lives. So High Magic Low Lives is a post-dungeon fantasy tabletop RPG about wizard school dropouts who get into trouble with the immortal aristocracy and to make a coin and build their hashtag brand. So yes, it's a mashup of like streamer culture and high magic dungeon crawling.
Fun.
Yeah, like old RPGs, this is a game about a crew of weirdos finding subterranean vaults filled with treasure, knocking down doors, beating up guards, setting off traps, and taking home as much coin as you can carry. Like new school RPGs, the mechanics are simple. Drive the story forward and don't rely on a ton of preparation in advance. Unlike any RPG you've ever played before, you can get paid for live streaming your fight against the Jack-o'-lantern queen of Zabraxis.
That old hack.
I know. Who hasn't streamed that already? Your companions will probably prefer you help them survive the fight, but they'll forgive you when you capture their critical hit for all to see. And you can get that at gemroomgames.itch.io.
Gemroomgames.itch.io. I'm going there right now.
Ooh, yeah. So yes. And actually you can see there's a way back in olden times from Stu's Garage, you can see a one-shot actual play of this game
Oh, cool. All
from
right.
a while ago.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, so if you go actually see their itch.io page for High Magic Low Lives, there is a little video embedded of us. And not me personally, but like of the Happy
Nor
Jacks
me.
crew. No.
Or my.
Yeah.
Also, say if you wanted a physical copy of the game, you can also go to shop.gemroomgames.com. The IO address is for a digital copy.
Yeah.
So you can get it in whatever form you like, as long as the forms are either digital or physical.
Take it however
If
you
you
like.
want it all factory, they do
Yeah, I
have
was like, can I get
a
the
resource
smell
for that
version of
currently.
it?
Yeah.
Mm.
You could probably buy cantrip candles that would apply to this game.
Oh, very
so
good,
get
very
this
good,
game
yeah.
and get a cantrip candle. Free advertisement for a company there, but
Yes,
right.
and we'll work on the audiobook coming out in 2025.
Someday we'll just have like an osmosis game. You just like put it under your pillow and you just like absorb the knowledge.
Oh, that was a good game.
That'd be so good. Yeah. All right.
Damn,
Excellent.
that was going to be my game, my Oz game. It was going to be Osmosis.
I mean, that's a very, very fun
Is that really your name? You
No.
That's
No,
pretty
it
good
was
game.
not, but it was right there.
Spoilers. Nick is running a Savage World game with Wizard of Ozzy like inclinations about it coming soon.
Oh, whoops. Sorry. You heard it here first.
Was I not supposed to say
I mean,
No, I don't know. I said it.
Okay.
So-
but you could have been talking about a home game. Kimmy decided to throw the whole
Oh,
bag
that's
Yeah,
true.
just
That's true.
everything out there.
It was a home game, but now apparently it's being streamed. That's what the boss says.
Okay, I know I promised we wouldn't talk about this, but Team Banana 71 says OGL, the olfactory gaming license.
Ah.
I'll take that.
Very good.
I
Very
think
nice.
I think that I can legally say that and not be in violation of my
sure.
conflict
Yeah.
of interest.
We've decided not to talk about the OGL at all on our show because everyone else is talking about it enough for everyone else.
You know,
It'll be
I
great.
kind of meant to bring it up on all of the shows just to give people like a glimpse of where they are historically. Like if they're listening to this episode in 10 years, they can be like, ah, yes, I remember those days.
Well, the problem with that is we would have to do the show every single day because a different development or thing happened.
That's true.
And,
Like 2 a day.
Yeah.
Do you know
Well-
what also works just as well? Is that all the episodes are dated.
Yeah, but no one looks at that.
Oh, no, I know.
It's just
I'll be
autoplays.
honest. When I listened to the first 20 seasons, when I was working at a job where I needed to fill 8 to 12 hours a day with something,
Yeah.
I didn't pay attention to what the dates were. It was just one show after another.
I'm so glad we could be your something.
Oh, you were great.
Thanks.
I developed all these parasocial relationships that I had to go to therapy
know.
to take care of.
And then we met at Strategicon and we became real friends.
See, that's how it works. So
Full circle.
parasocially, listen to all of our shows.
Yeah.
We're
Go
your
from-
friends,
Yeah, go
personally.
from stalker to friend to co-host.
That's
very
right.
quickly. Don't actually do that.
Don't
Please.
do that.
Please don't do that. No.
It's the Happy Jacks pipeline.
Mm.
All right, I'm gonna start mailbag 1. We're gonna get this going.
Okay.
letters. You get letters.
Hello all. Richard here, Kettle and Clock on the Discord. This emailing thing worked so well the first time, I decided to give another shot. By the way, this is not how this is written, but there was a request for a Russian accent, and
Much
since
better.
I don't have to be coherent, I'm going to take
You
the
filthy
opportunity.
American capitalist will dance for whatever the people tell you to do. I see.
Mine is so rusty. I'm so embarrassed. It used to be
You must
like...
really step up
most
game.
of most of mine is probably not going to hold up, but I just do
Boris?
I do from Glow. I do
Oh,
Zoya the Destroyer.
yes. Mine is a pastiche of Boris Badenov.
Yeah.
Is mainly where mine comes from.
I do Natasha.
Listening to season 31 rather, episode 7, where you discuss mystery stories, got me thinking about the framework that I use to prepare for games. Quick note, a lot of this developed naturally over time, and I only realized it after the fact. So I do not think that I went into GMing understanding that this is how it would go. Acknowledging that this, I think, is an important step in development of new GMs.
Okay, Nick.
I'm going to stop. I just want to finish this one paragraph
Okay, that's
because
fine.
otherwise
I
it's
love
gonna
you,
bug me.
but yeah.
Yeah. I dived in, broke things, learned hard lessons, and now I have advice to give. Don't think you have to be this methodical in order to start GMing. Also, this is my experience and thoughts, and in no way is indicative of anything close to truth, in quotes, or fact, also in quotes, of gaming/storytelling. All right.
I love indicative. That's a very good word to say with a Russian accent.
Indicative.
Indicative.
Indubitably.
So, as I grew up, my mother loved mysteries and my father loved
Who's
science
this
fiction.
now?
This is Beyonce.
We said no more voices, Nick.
And C.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
fine.
Sorry. From the beginning. Sorry.
I would never interrupt on this show.
No, that never happens.
Never.
What I meant more was you might want to start the paragraph over because I caught you off in the middle of a sentence for the paragraph.
Oh, that's okay. My mother loved mysteries and my father loved science fiction. As such, I developed an unconscious understanding of these two storytelling methods, and I have done so now generally, having done so now, I generally use a mystery style story to tell all my fantasy science fiction narratives. What you have to understand, and what is commonly forgotten about in TTRPG advice, is that there's a separation in mystery between reader knowledge and character knowledge that is more defined and important than any other types of fiction. In mystery novels, the reader is given much more information than the character, often seeing the murder happen, then seeing the murderer get away, then watching the murderer stumble or overcompensate. Doing this means that the reader, who is a regular person without any crime-fighting experience, can remain aware of what is happening, while the character, who is a crime-fighting ultra-detective superhero, can make massive leaps in logic and use seemingly unconnected clues to explain to their assistant, or the police, etc., how everything is connected. In this way, the reader never feels dumb by being left behind by the narrative, and the character can seem hyper-competent by making connections that ordinary people will never make. I want everyone to know that I stifled a burp there, because that was definitely starting to come out during that whole paragraph. And I only include that because this is Happy Jacks, and there's a proud tradition of belching into the mic.
Absolutely. Sorry, Canada.
Yeah. Well, no, Canada's happy because I didn't.
That's right. Yeah.
You're welcome, Canada.
You're welcome.
I leverage this in my TTRPGs by providing little vignettes to my players at the start of each session. Well, not every session. That help me bring them up to speed on what I've been planning and to signpost the direction they should head in order to get there.
Previously on this game.
Because no one took notes.
Accurate.
Who would like to do it for a Benny? Anyone? Anyone? I like to use this in a very similar way to the way that Adam, I think it was Adam, described having a rough plan of what has
not
been,
taking notes.
and then doing a little bit of prep into cool things that could happen, and then letting the players take that into unexpected directions. It all comes back to a vice that I've heard in a few places. It doesn't exist until it hits the table. This is usually held up as a way to curb the, quote, player with too much backstory problem, end quote, but I find it useful to also curb the, quote, GM with too much world building, end quote, problem. Even if your world building is huge, expansive, and interesting, the players don't know about it until you put it directly in front of them. I don't know if there was a question here for y'all. Maybe that's good enough a jumping off point to inspire some tangential conversation. If not, then consider this. What do you do to help your players get what they're going for? How do you bait the hook? Thanks again for making a great show. I really enjoy listening to y'all talk. I have now started listening to some of the actual plays, and they're real good. More people should listen to them. I guarantee you I did not just insert that myself. That is legitimately in this email.
It does not say it in the
It
email.
is not. It's not my copy.
Yeah,
Sorry.
but Nick, you inserted the surprise voice.
Oh.
With,
They're actually good.
I intimated it. Actually good.
I'm trying to,
yeah, okay.
emotion into our
I see how it is.
I don't just want to be a flat monotone. They're very good. You should watch
Beyonce?
them. Beyonce.
By the way, when you get to the end of this email, you're going to realize you made the wrong choice in accents.
Uh-huh.
All right, from the border of Gurnai, Kurnai, and Bunurong countries, southeastern Australia. Oh, God damn it! I could have been doing this whole in my bad Australian accent rather than my bad Russian accent.
That's not a mystery. Now that's a mystery.
From Richard.
Good day, Richard.
Oh,
Sorry, Richard.
P.S. If you're a
there's
player
more.
and you see your GM trying to hook you in, be a good player and bite. P.P.S. If you're interested in pets and TTRPGs, I'm working on a thing. Message me on Discord.
Oh, that's not a crap.
We're going to have to guess what that Discord name is. We'll find you.
I believe it's Kettle and Clock on the Discord, as it was said in the first paragraph. Someone who
I'm
wasn't
not taking
notes.
You can take your notes, yeah. This is an open book quiz.
Oh, shite.
All right. Well, here we are. So let's start with the actual question, then we will jump around and make up our own things.
Well, I think talking about the first part that they were talking about with the mystery games, like the reader knowledge versus like the character knowledge.
Fine, be chronological.
I know. Well, like,
To be fair to Kimmy,
To be fair.
even Richard tossed that in. Like, I guess if you need a question, let's do this. So there's not even a lot of enthusiasm for the question from the author of the question. So
Fair.
It's like, if you needed one,
Yeah.
here's one for you.
it is a good question though.
let's start with the afterthought.
Yes. I think that's
Well, it's like a mystery. We're starting with the afterthought, and then we're going to go back and find out how we got
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
I think that's a good observation about like fictional novels, but that's such a hard thing to balance with RPGs because there's a ton that the players know that their characters don't, and a lot of players for the most part, I always assume that people are trying to do their best not to be dicks and metagame too much, and also some metagaming's super fun, so like you can lean into it, but like it's a harder thing to do than when you're reading something and reading about a character who doesn't know something and actually playing one. So I think that's, I don't know, there's a difference there.
It's how you're consuming it, because reading is a passive experience. RPGs are an active experience.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm sitting here watching the GM play with themselves, that's it's uncomfortable. I'm like,
That
There's so many ways
fits
that's
into
true.
the horror story category, and we've agreed that there's no more non-GM, non-game related horror stories on the
all
show
right.
anymore. You're treading a line here, buddy.
It's also a thing about when you're reading a mystery novel, the author of the book is writing both the mystery and the detective solving the mystery. So the author can put the clues wherever they want and know the detective will pick up the clues where they want them to.
Figure them out.
Because they're having to do it. Whereas, like, as someone who I've never like run a pure like an actual like murder mystery style story, but I have run a lot of Doctor Who RPG because I GM for Doctor Who RPG podcast. And I think I mentioned this last time on the show, where one of the hardest things I both played the Doctor and now I run as a GM, and one of the hardest things to do is to convey the, because in the show Doctor Who, like, the Doctor is really, really smart and figures a lot of stuff out because the show was written for the Doctor to be really, really smart and figure stuff out.
Yeah.
When you're playing as the player, you have to act like you're able to figure stuff out even when you have no idea what's happening. And as the GM, you have to be able to support that player so that it sounds like that player is being really smart and figuring stuff out as the Doctor would do. And I think that's where, like, it can be a little tough, like you're saying, about the active versus passive.
Yeah.
We're talking about a person playing a character who did not write the mystery.
I always go to you have this information, your deductive skills gives you this baseline, and then you rolled this or achieve this goal, and you get this extra bit, this extra layer. And how you want to present that to the table is up to you. So doing a kind of vignette and everyone watches it kind of feels like, oh, well, that's taken away my little special thing where I can do this, clue findy thing and give more info.
Isn't that how Gumshoe does it? Where there's a certain baseline amount of information you're going to get, but if you have certain skills, you might get additional information.
Yes, and I love Gumshoe and Gumshoe of Cthulhu. I forget what it's called. It's Trail of Cthulhu. That's their whole thing, is that don't hide your clues where they can't find them. Give them the clues and then give them extra details on top of that. So
One thing that I've experimented with and has actually been a huge success, at least in my opinion, my humble opinion, for One Ring is asking the players to give details. So there was, I'm trying to it's brand new. It just got released yesterday. So I don't want to give too much information.
spoilers.
But I know, spoilers. So they're in this interesting place. And,
Much.
gosh, all the info.
What, Middle Earth?
Yeah.
God, Nick, I haven't watched.
Sorry.
The outer zones.
Sorry.
But it's okay. I was
Beginning
trying,
Earth.
Yes.
Not Middle Earth. We're not there yet.
But I was trying to give them, they knew they were going to face something the next day, and I wanted them to have dreams about it. So I asked them, I'm like, okay, and I gave them sort of parameters, like, this is the character you see in your dream. They tell you something that makes you feel better and makes you be ready to be, to face the next day's challenge. What happened in your dream? So they'd say it, and I'm like, okay, great. I'm gonna riff on that a little bit. This is the small thing that changed. So you could actually set something up where it's describe, open up with a description of the murder scene, sort of like you would in a TV show, where they are passive kind of observers. And then when they get on the scene as actual characters, say, okay, you notice something. What do you notice about the floor? And then whatever they say, it's really easy then to tie it in to, because you already know what, you already know, hopefully. Maybe you don't. That's okay too. If you don't, even better. You then...
You get to let them create the
yeah,
mystery.
exactly. So, and then they give you a little bit and you just tie it in.
I'm just Blades in the Dark. You're familiar with it, right?
Yes.
And you know how the whole heist system works, where you don't actually plan anything out, you spend stress to make things happen. That would kind of be amazing for a mystery game where you're like, I'm coming in here to solve this mystery. Oh, what happened in this mystery? And then you spend stress to be like, oh, there's blood on the floor. Great. And then whose blood is it? And you're building it off of that, where the characters make the mystery for you.
Yeah.
I want this now.
Yes.
That's really interesting.
My very first con game, I ran that way, sort of by accident. But I was, and I've told the story. If you've heard the story, I'm sorry. but it was a Wild Talents game where it was superpowers, and it popped up, and that's what caused the Salem witch trials. Is like people started getting superpowers, and Puritans fucking freaked the fuck out.
they do.
What?
Yes, they do. What? So there was one, there was
Religious extremists having
Shocking.
unhinged responses to.
They're very rational people.
You're very irrational.
I like
But
that you're saying it like it wasn't literally a thing that happened exactly the way she described it in history.
No, but
but
I gotta find my entertainment somewhere, right?
What? The Salem witch trials happened exactly how the witch trials actually happened, except for there was actually supernatural powers
Look,
happening.
you could laugh or you could cry.
yeah.
Honestly, that I will say this is my little side note. I get frustrated by like pop culture depictions like Addams Family or Wednesday, or even like with WandaVision, where they're like, oh, there actually were witches in Salem, because then it makes it actually seem like the Puritans who murdered people for being witches
We're kind of
were
right.
a little bit right.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe that's not the best depiction you could be doing here, of being like, they actually turned out they were killing a lot of real witches.
They found
Like,
him and took
not
care
that
of
you
him.
should be killing witches. That's also a bad thing.
Yes.
But they make it seem like, oh no, there actually was a reason for them to be frightened and scared, and not that it was asshole neighbors turning on each
Right.
other for political points.
Yes. But for that particular game, like I wasn't quite sure who was going to be the big bad at the end. So as they went through, like they are kind of the ones, and they didn't know it at the time. They were like, "Oh, it's amazing how you wove all that together." Yeah. But like there was like I knew there was like 3 possibilities. Also because it was based on history, so it's like these are all big assholes. Pick your flavor of asshole that you want to be the big responsible person. But as they added stuff to the story, and as they discovered things as they went through the adventure, like it eventually pointed to one of the people. So it's actually really easy to do mysteries. I wouldn't say really easy, but it's easier than you would assume.
So more to the question, how do we bait the hook? How do we get them to go where we want them to? Like it's totally an open playground. There's no rails here.
Well, I think that what Kimmy is saying is if you run it that way, you don't have to bait the hook. Wherever they go, that's where the hook was.
They all were assholes
So
to
they
begin
get
with.
to, well, yeah, but they get to decide what parts they think are important or are related to the case and describe exactly what they were. And so they're baiting their own hook. They've got a carrot on a stick that's hanging in front of their own heads. You don't even have to do anything.
There's a hook that they walk up and put their own bait on, and they go, that looks good.
Who put this bait here? Delicious.
I am going to push back that you don't have to do anything. There's a lot of work involved.
I
in that.
didn't. I
I know.
apologize. I didn't mean you don't have to do anything, because you do have to go like, fuck, how do those footsteps,
Here are all these
these
ropes.
footsteps and this cake, those somehow have to point to some person.
Braid these
But-
together.
And you have to have some improv skills there too, because you have to be
Yes.
able to take what they're doing and work it in without being like, okay, yeah, there's a footsteps, and then like trying to figure out what that means. Like you have to be able to go, okay, there's footsteps. I have a guy with boots. Cool. Now I know that that's where the footsteps came from. Like you have to make sure that works. Like, which that's a lot of what I do at Doctor Who. Is a lot of like, okay, whatever they're following is, I know these basic ingredients, and whatever path they take is how I'm going to get to that ingredient. So.
But overall, I think that that's probably easier and less frustrating than, okay, I know that the killer is Bill from accounting. How do I let them know without being obvious that it's Bill from accounting? Which is, to me, the most frustrating part about running mysteries most of the time is you know all the answers, and it's either 100% clear to you and you don't get why they don't figure it out, or it's completely opaque and you don't know how to even get them the clues that they need to solve this problem. And you get frustrated when they're like, oh, it must have been the cleaning man.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it can be lower improv than people expect. Because, for example, if you ask leading questions, take it from a 4th grade teacher, like there's a very small number of answers you're going to get.
Yeah.
If you sit ahead of time and you're like, okay, this is what my crime scene looks like, write a couple things that are on the floor, write some things that are on the window, write some things that you notice about the door, write something about something else, the picture. And then if you looked at, okay, you're walking through what do you notice about the floor? It's probably going to be like footprints or blood or scratches or drag marks or something like that. So if you've already planned some things that clues that have to do with the floor, it's very easy to then tie in, oh, I see a boot prints. Okay, you notice that, they're a really large size. So it's really easy to take what they give you and just very slightly tweak it to fit what you've already planned without really using a lot of improv skills.
fair.
Yeah, like one of the things I've done whenever I've had to write a mystery for players is I will have this person is it. And then I'll have my secondary, this person could also be it. And write out my clues so that they align with this person the most, this person the second most, and then a minimal amount going down. So anyone who does need deductive skills, oh, they have no feet. They fly everywhere. So, that obviously isn't them. They only wear high heels. Well, it's obviously not them. They have big boot prints. And it slowly points towards where you want them to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought I was super clever in your games.
You
about
are super
mysteries.
clever in my
No,
games.
that's okay. It's okay. The mystery's gone. That's fine.
This is another group. This is with Steve. It's for Steve's game.
Wait, you're playing games and you're not inviting me? That's fine. That's fine. I don't need to.
I have to dumb it down for them. You're too smart for those. I have to
Really?
Yes. Yes, and
I do think, especially for mysteries, though, there is you have to hook them at the beginning.
Yeah.
There are some games where you can kind of have like a slow ramp up, where it's like, okay, you are a farmer and you're wandering around. But I feel like most games need something, especially mystery games, where they know it's going to be maybe not low stakes, but like low adventure. Like they're not going to be in a lot of danger for most of it. Because even like noir adventures, it's like, okay, a lot of wandering around crime scenes. Oh, you get shot at by someone in a dark alley. Okay, now back to finding clues.
Yeah.
And usually, especially in noir, it's usually a lot more fisticuffs than it is shooting people.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. You do have that shadowy figure who pulls out a gun,
Yeah.
shoots at you, and then runs away, and you hear high heels.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, see, that's another thing on the floor. They're high heels, not boots.
So it's not just the person who has no feet and fly away. It's maybe the heels person.
Unless they're flying low enough that they're just doing that with their hands as they fly away to throw everyone off.
Some
Can't
coconuts.
be me. Yeah.
I think that the hook also, a really good way to get the hook baited is to have action happen while the players are present. Like, you can't always do it that way, but I think I mean, talk about like murder mysteries. Often TV show murder mysteries have like a Murder, She Wrote vibe. Like you're already at this party and then a murder happens in another room, or you hear a scream and now you're in the action. And if you're running, depending on what your adventure is or what your setting is, something that triggers the murder should be happening. That way that it's immediate, it's present. Or otherwise, if you're playing characters who are detectives that are being hired to come to a case, hopefully the players will even if you're not making it immediate, hopefully your players who are playing a detective story aren't going to show up their detective characters and be like, nah, I don't feel like solving this mystery today. Can you imagine if at the beginning of like a Knives Out movie, Benoit Blanc is like, no, I want to go on vacation. Like, it wouldn't happen.
I'm gonna go have a soak.
My tub is calling me.
This one's too easy for me to do.
I love him so much.
It's just dumb.
But there's a there's a level of excitement and enthusiasm that you get though from players if you like have that exciting moment at the beginning.
Yeah.
So I think it definitely does serve a purpose, even if they are all creating characters that are gonna have buy-in anyway.
Yeah.
It's
That's why I
just-
was saying the event
yeah.
happening. It just raises the stakes
It's so
immediately.
fun
Yeah.
too, and it's like it's just like it's like turning up the volume on a really good song. It's like, okay, the song is good either way, but oh, you're in your car and you're just like crank it up there, boom. Like it's just, I don't know, I love it.
Well, one thing you could do if you want to bait the hook, especially if it's a mystery, incriminate your players.
Yeah.
Whatever you find, they also happen to have ties to that thing.
Very
And
good one.
if they don't clear their name, they're the ones going to jail.
Bum, bum, bum.
That's cool too because it gives them like a timer,
Mm-hmm.
and that's
Timers are
that.
great.
Yeah.
Now you're back to Blaze in the Dark with clocks.
Oh.
Yeah. Actually, that's a Apocalypse World thing. No, sorry, mistake.
don't
I'll
think it
stop.
Is it really? Are there
I don't
clocks
think
in
it is.
Apocalypse World?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's totally an Apocalypse World thing.
I'll be
Really?
honest, I've never actually played Apocalypse World. I've only played
Yeah,
powered by the
okay.
Apocalypse
a lot
games.
of original PBTA games like have the clocks mechanism with like the timers. I don't like them, so I've never. I've played with them like.
I've never played
one time.
actual Apocalypse World, and I don't think I've ever played a PPTA game that has the clock in it. So I
Yeah.
didn't know it was a
Okay.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people leave them out.
Honestly, kind of does because if you don't do things, the monsters kill everybody. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but like the actual like round, Also, they just like it took me a really long time for my brain to wrap around like the round clock thing. I was just like, this is very I don't know. It's just a mechanic that I was like, my brain doesn't work quite like that.
It's just because you were raised as a digital kid.
Yeah.
Can't stand this analog
Okay.
stuff.
What do those hands mean?
Every year, I have to teach my 9-year-old students how to read clocks because they're like, Miss Bell or Miss Hughes, what time is it? And it's like, yeah, you have to keep working on that. Like here's the first week lesson. This is how you read the face of a regular clock. And they're like, oh, okay. Can you
And
get a
they'll
digital
never
one?
need
No.
it again once they're out of school.
Yeah. It's fine. Sorry, that's my pet peeve at the beginning of every year.
We're gonna have a
tell
generation of people eventually who don't know what clockwise and counterclockwise mean. Because
I know,
they've
and
never
everyone's
seen
gonna
a
be like,
digital
"What do you mean? Why do they always say that he's on your 6?"
I have to teach them that. It's the
Oh
thing.
boy.
I'm gonna put up a face clock in here just to spite all of you.
We'll bring
Yeah.
it up.
I also
We're old
teach
enough that
cursive,
we'll know
so-
how to read it.
Yeah, I know.
Like that's not the cursive
Yeah.
is a problem for me. But because I was never good at writing in cursive when I like was younger.
Okay. I want to tell just a quick story. It's not RPG related, but it is incriminating
That's
towards
fine.
me.
I
And
just started
think that
talking about
that's
clocks and
indicting.
cursive. You're fine.
No, it's about
Clocks
a clock.
related
It's
to
about a
RPG.
clock.
Okay.
Where we're going, we don't need clocks.
So for a very, 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 very long time, I did not get any sort of a mobile phone. And then when I did get a mobile phone, I did not get a smartphone for a very, 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 very long time. But when I did, I kind of fell into it a lot, and I was using it all the time. But I was almost always using it as a clock, as a watch, or something of that nature, because I stopped wearing I stopped wearing watches because stopwatches, those two. Because people always asked me, didn't matter, 50 people, I was the one they would ask, and I got really tired of that. So I was using the phone all the time as a clock to learn the time. And someone came in and they were saying that they needed a phone. And I was like, there's a phone right here. And they said, what do you mean? I'm like, there's a phone right there on the wall. Because my brain had wired clock and phone into one thing. And they were asking for an actual honest-to-God phone, but my brain went, yeah, it's right there.
That's amazing. Oh,
Wow.
that's amazing.
That's the exact reverse too of Dick Tracy, where it's a clock that's also a phone, it's a watch that's also a radio.
Oh man.
Oh,
Those
that's
things-
so funny.
Those things seem so amazing.
I like to imagine in their head what they thought happened was you went to one of those schools that had the call button for the office right below the clock, and so they assumed that you always thought the clock and the call button were the same thing.
All right, so let's go around.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little bit of a high pressure question. We're all each going to share one of our favorite hooks that we did for a game we ran, or it could be a game you were in too. Like, all right, I'll go first because I actually said this because I was.
Could you have
because
one?
I had a-
You wanted to show us all up. I get how it is.
No. Well, my con games, especially for con games, it's really important to have the hook at the beginning, especially because they're usually strangers. One of my favorite ones was I was running. It was a Wild Talents game also, but and I had these folders out on the table, and it was like a Skyrim game. Oh, this is gonna be fun, you know.
See, they woke up in a cart, and
It's-
someone's like, "Oh, you're awake now."
Well,
Finally.
Usually for con games, they don't let people look. At the
She actually
character
knocked
sheets.
them all
I
out.
knocked them all
first.
out first.
That was the hook.
Yeah,
Does this
drugged
smell like
them.
chloroform?
It became a LARP. But I had these folders out on the table, and I don't usually let people look at the character sheets when there's like a symbol. It's like, oh, okay, this is gonna be the fire magic. This is gonna be. They
Oh,
opened
change
it,
the fire magic.
and they were all dragons. So they were actually like a clutch of dragons who all got to be a family of dragons together. So they were playing
Aw.
Skyrim, but they were the dragons in Skyrim. So that was
Nice.
immediately, but like 100% buy-in. They were all super excited because I'd done like the special like outline. Like Wild Talents has a little like the figure outline, and you do the hit points. There was all little dragons, and they each had their big dragon name. I made my husband do a bunch of graphics that made it look all cool. So
Nice.
That's cool.
it was very fun.
It would have been great if you were like, you have to keep that you're a dragon secret from all the other players.
Oh,
all
that'd be
dragons.
so great.
Oh man, that was the con though. They like walked around literally for 3 days going like Dragon Brother. Like they decided they were like teenage like
Mutant Ninja
silly
Dragons.
dragons.
I
Yeah,
love
and
it.
all con that was like you'd be across the room and you'd hear Dragon Brother like it was like call and response. It was funny.
Oh, that's so great.
One of my favorite ones, and I talked about it last time I was on the show. I think regards to the.
Well, that's disqualified.
Okay.
No, it's fine. I've told that.
I was about to say, like, if that was, yeah, but it's Kimmy's show, so she's allowed to break the rules.
I'm allowed to tell
It's
the same
true.
story over and over again for 10 years. It's fine.
Well, actually, it's applicable because of this story. In regards to the Thessal Hydra. Those of you that know that it's about, memories getting erased and what have you. And how I opened up this game was that I had the players receive a letter addressed to them from somebody that they did not know, beseeching them for help, and they had like intimate details of their life. And they're like, I have to find out more about this person because they know me, obviously. And then when they get to the house, they see pictures of them together, and like, I have no memory of this.
That's wild. That would be so weird.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's one of the things when I see it in like a game or on a movie or TV. It's just like the strangest thing.
Yeah, it's like an existential dread kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yep. What's yours, Nick?
I don't have one.
Oh, good.
Oh, come on.
I don't run a lot of games, and when I do, I don't tend to be clever like that. In a way that hooks people immediately, because my brain normally thinks of like twists at the end, not a hook at the beginning.
That makes sense.
So, for example, on that, one of the things that I always wanted to do with a bunch of people was to run a Deadlands game because I love that world, and then have the reveal at the end that they were. That like as they keep encountering these things that they can't kill and they can't affect and they can't do all this stuff, at the end reveal that they were actually the hosts in Westworld.
Ah, that's cool.
But I've never run that because I always thought people would be pissed off at the end when they were like halfway through the game, you get super frustrated when you can't kill any of the things that are after you. So I think it would work well as like a tension building game.
Yeah.
But I just never got there.
Yeah, that's a cool idea though.
Even if you didn't want to do it as like the big reveal at the end of the game.
Oh, by the way, anyone here, don't go to OrcCon because don't play in my game. You won't enjoy it.
Or they will. Maybe they love it.
I know. Well, 'cause I'm not doing that anyway. But
I know.
Well, I was gonna say you could make it a thing like instead of being in the entire game they can't hurt anything so they get frustrated. It could be a thing like that becomes the mystery. Why can't we hurt things? And then part of the game can become like how do we become ways that because. Like in Westworld, how do we start to hurt things? Like, how does it happen?
Actually, that's true.
Yeah, you just need to get Yul Brynner and get him shot in the head. The robot. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and also, like, they realize that they can't get hurt. Like, partway through, that would also be an interesting thing.
Well, but they can't. I mean, the hosts could get hurt.
Yeah, but then they, like, are, like, regenerated with, like, no memory of it. So, like, they keep popping back up with, like, oh, you don't have any memory of that? What happened to you yesterday?
If you killed one player and then had them come back, that would be kind of cool. Should be like, you have no memory of what happened.
Like if the other host noticed somebody show up and they don't know what. Yeah.
I'd have to get a ringer. You want to be my ringer?
I have no idea what you're talking about. This doesn't look like anything to me.
I was on the verge of it. Yeah.
So close.
You have one character who has vague memories of living a different life with a daughter or somewhere else. Yeah.
Amazing. Riley.
I was hoping I could get past it.
Yeah.
I think along with what Jameson said earlier about accusing somebody of committing a crime as a way of like getting them invested in the mystery, I have to clear my own name. I think also getting them trapped in a location until the mystery is solved is a good way to do it because then they won't be able to leave. So they're going to like start to go, well, I don't want to stay here forever. So let's figure it out. And, I think most of my mystery stories I've run have been Doctor Who stories. Sorry. But like in Classic Who, a lot of times like they couldn't get back to the TARDIS until the story was solved. And so they were stuck wherever they were. And I ran a game earlier this year that was part of our most recent season of Doctor Who, of Game of Rassilon, where I had separated the Doctor from the companions for an episode and did a Doctor Light one and a Companion Light episode. And the companions suddenly just were taken off the TARDIS and they suddenly were on a starship somewhere and they didn't know why they were there. And they were put in this like luxury cabin on this starship and there were like outfits laid out for them that were like exactly to their taste. And then there was someone like, we're going to dinner now. So then that made them really hooked to be like, why are we here? How did we get here? What is going on here? Because they have no idea, like there's no explanation as to how they got there or why. And so, unless they want to spend the entire game just hanging out in a hotel room, which like definitely would be fun for other reasons. But it made them go, well, we have to figure this out or else there's nothing to do.
Right.
So
That's awesome. That's a really good hook. That's really nice.
I'll tell you off mic what the reveal was the episode.
Okay.
It was very fun.
There was a
Was it
hook.
Daleks?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm
ruined it.
like I'm answering it for you. I'm like, no.
No.
That's
Yeah,
a
I have
no.
yet to run. I've only run a season. I played the Doctor for 3 years. I've GM for 1 year. I've yet to run a Dalek story. I was going to run a Dalek
Good.
story for this year's. We
They're
do a
underutilized.
we do a Doctor Who Day special, and I decided to do Cybermen because I wanted to call it Cyber Monday.
Oh, nice. That's very good. That's
Excellent.
very Because the problem with the Daleks is that they inundate. I was gonna say there's a thing that I've always wanted to run as a hook that I always thought was really cool. And this is not my idea. I'm not stealing this. I don't remember where it was, but I've seen it on the internet a bunch of times. And it's the game where nobody knows who or what they
Yeah,
are until
an
they
amnesia game,
do
yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yep.
Like I would love something like that where the example they have in that game was the bartender seems really weird and scared of you because Dragonborn aren't plentiful in this area, and they go, oh, I'm a Dragonborn. Oh, okay, and they write that down, or they don't know what their abilities are. I always thought that would be a super cool game to run or to play in.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's really fun.
Maybe do it.
I did that for a Star Wars game I ran at a con. Because for cons, I always have some weird thing to start with. And it turned out that they were all droids. And they didn't know that. That like when they first started, it's very it doesn't say anything on the I left the names blank on their character sheet. So they were playing through the first scene, and then it was like, okay, and I specifically was like, okay, like you ready to go. And they okay, they knew that they would know, their character would know who they were, but they didn't quite know. And then it was like they were on a starship and there were all these dead Bothans, and they were like, wait, why aren't we dead? And they started figuring it out, and they're like, oh wait, we're droids. And many Bothans had died to get the plans and blah blah blah. But it really bought them in, like as they were trying to figure out who they were, and then they get to come up with their droid names. And they were
Many Bothans have died for this plot hook.
yes, and they did. All right, very good. Okay, mailbag number 2.
I can do this one.
Okay.
Hey, Happy Jack crew. My name is Emily, and I have been playing tabletop RPGs for many years now. I backed my way into playing more complex board games via the TTRPG space, and now I like them both. My wife is a big board game fan, but she has never tried a TTRPG. I would love to share the hobby with her, especially as we have a new baby, but she is reticent. What are some good games you found to get board game players into TTRPGs? And I feel like I see a lot of board game players who just aren't interested in TTRPGs, but rarely the reverse of the scenario. A TTRPG player who's uninterested in board games. Why do you think that might happen? Without besmirching either side of our lively, feisty tabletop community, I have too many games in my closet. We all do.
Yes.
Wait a minute, I have to start.
I don't understand this
you
phrase.
pointed
Too
out
many games?
What? You pointed out that you are a TTRPG player who does not like board games.
I did.
That is categorically a lie.
How many games do I bring out?
You got called out.
I don't know whether you bring them out, but how many games do you have in your house?
I have a lot because I collect things and it's to fill an emotional hole. So,
I didn't realize this was a therapy session tonight.
I think that
wasn't
I
meant to
sit
be.
in the middle of this because I love board games. I love TTRPGs. I find myself not often wanting to play crunchier board games because I get to a mindset of like, well, if I'm going to learn these really complicated rules to play this game, I'd better be playing an RPG that can go on for a little while because I spent years with friends playing the Battlestar Galactica board game and I loved it, but I don't know if I have it in me to learn yet another game as complicated as that and master it to play it. But also it's hard for me when every time someone pulls a different game. We'll say this too. With my ADHD, it is very, very hard for me to sit and have somebody explain instructions to me. I have to learn a game by playing it.
Okay.
And
Yes.
I think that that frustrates everybody at the table because the person who wants to run the game doesn't want to have me learn as we go. And some games you can't learn as you go.
Right.
And by the time we finish playing it, everyone's frustrated. Then we never play it again. And so it's not great. Whereas a TTRPG, I feel like, okay, I've figured this game out. And now next session we'll be able to do more with what we've already learned and build from there.
Fair enough. But I know that you asked. Sorry, I'm a bulldog right now. I got to get this point.
Come on.
What if I said to you, I haven't seen Evil Dead 2 yet? Well, I know you've seen it because me and Dick watched it last time. We made a joke about the guy taking burnt shotgun oil in the 7th century.
Bring it. Let's do it. What's up?
You've asked to play that alien game that our friends have.
Which Alien game?
The one that is Alien with the serial
Now you
numbers.
see
filed.
here, Kimmy, what
I-
Nick has done is brought back an actual anecdotal bit of evidence from
amazing.
their real friendship.
I did not know of it. They had it and they were like, "Hey, let's play this." And I'm like, "Okay, cool."
And
We're playing the
Jameson's
simple
now on the
version.
defensive.
Yes. And he's like, "Good, that's the one we're gonna do." And then eventually we're gonna play the more complex one. We've never played the more complex version of that game, have we?
That's mainly because I back out of it.
Exactly.
Jameson
I don't
brought
have
up a
to.
good point.
It's
Yes,
not.
it's a bit of a deflection onto Nick.
And I've seen that you've owned the
Nick
Star
is using
Wars.
hand gestures now to really drive
I
it
do
home.
own it, but how often have I played it?
Oh, that's
But you've
Ooh,
asked about
that's
it
a very good
several
point.
times.
I
You've wanted
have.
to play it. You've made a point of it, and
It
you
sounds
even
like Jameson
you
is not in
even
the
went
pandemic
ahead
system, which
and
is what's being used for the Clone Wars.
you even went ahead and started to plan it with our friends to play that.
But did we
This is some
play it
damning
though?
evidence.
Because you
No.
know, if I
Oh, this is
plan
also
something,
damning evidence.
it gets done. How many campaigns have I run? How many games have I run?
How many campaigns have you not run? And don't
That's a lot-
don't
that's-
make me
that's not a
bring
quantifiable
don't make
number.
me bring receipts here. Because
Okay.
I've got
Well-
lots of stuff going on. So what I'm
Well.
saying is
Do you remember earlier
But
when
how
you were
many
like, hey,
board
we need
games
to
have
make
I
sure we
played
fill
versus
an
how
hour?
many board games have I set up to play versus how many campaigns have I set up to play?
It's rare that you see such volleys on podcasts nowadays. It's just
I'm saying that I enjoy simple games. I don't like to learn, as Riley pointed out, learning a new system is easy to do if I'm going to, do a tabletop RPG.
you just took Jaws of the Lion in the hopes
for
of wanting to play
something to get my
wa-
fiance into
wanting
that.
to play Gloomhaven.
I want to get her to play something with me. We have like so many games, but I would like to have hung out with you guys, which is the real reason I wanted to play that, because I feel left out.
Oh wow, this just got
Yeah.
The real personal revelation.
I was like, oh, you guys got the Frosthaven? That sounds fun. Is that something I should
Well,
get
do you
into?
want to come over on Tuesday nights and play?
I would like to.
Aw.
But we're already doing Deadlands on Tuesday. So,
Okay, I'm sorry. Do you want to come over on Sundays and play?
maybe every other weekend.
See,
I've got
right,
so-
exactly. So it's a personal issue.
I'm
here.
gonna end it at like the scheduling.
Okay, yeah, we'll have that
The
bit
second
edited,
half of
right?
our show
like-
is just them pulling their
Yeah,
Organizers out.
yeah. Golf clap for that amazing back and forth there. We appreciate
Okay,
it.
Yeah, no
and
problem.
I appreciate the commentary. It was very fun and very
Agreed.
very hard to stay on topic about arguing when we're being talked about like David Attenborough's in the room.
What Nick is doing now is complimenting the commentators. It's a very powerful statement.
Better with the statements.
Thank you.
I would like to
I
say
now declare Nick the winner of the argument because he was very complimentary to the judges, which is good for him. There's no rule against it.
Tune into the new Happy Jack show. Riley and Kimmy comment on things.
That would be so fun.
I'd watch that.
You and I do a color comment on other people's
Just
RPGs.
random shit,
I mean,
yeah.
that'd be so fun.
Of other people's actual plays?
Yeah,
Oh.
man. I feel like we could get sued for that, but it'd be
No, people on the channel. Like we wouldn't
yeah.
be like just random. We wouldn't like doing like
whole random people were like,
have a show.
Yeah.
And okay, I gotta stop talking about ideas that I want to.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hold on
I'm
here.
giving them away.
What I do want to say actually in relation to the actual email here
oh yeah,
is the way that me and my friends often play.
Ripjacks.
No,
That's a
it's a
great
good
name.
Team Banana 71. Nailed it.
the chat Team Banana has submitted riff jacks at the name
Yeah,
of that
yeah,
show.
that's very good.
That's what we need.
Oh,
is
you go back
another
and
thing
listen
for
to
me to do.
old actual plays.
I do commentary on them.
Oh my god.
I
It's a
don't.
never-ending
wanna
stream
Oh
of
my
do
god.
that.
content.
Oh my god. If we watched Hexbreakers, it would be me yelling for myself to shut up. That's the whole commentary. It'd be like, Riley, stop talking.
Everyone loves that one. So many people have
And just hate how much
commented
I talked.
in the Discord. They're just like, that's the one like makes everybody cry. They love the Hexbreakers.
Aw.
So,
What were you saying, Nick?
yeah, Emily.
They're crying for Riley to stop talking.
No.
It's Riley, just give it.
It's
This is going
not
to turn into
true.
therapy.
Yeah.
Emily, what I wanted to say is what I find works for my group is that we don't take really any of the board games that we play terribly seriously, and we are in fact role playing through them anyway because it amuses us to do so. And sometimes even something in a game that doesn't have any role play ability of it, making it RP actually can be a super ton of fun and kind of get people. I don't know for sure because all my friends are also our peers. Well, except anyway. Sorry, personal news here. But it gets people interested in doing that if you can kind of craft a story. Like even something like Catan, which doesn't really have a story other than building things, you can kind of create your own character of what your village considers important and address things like that and kind of ease someone into wanting to do RPG stuff?
I would suggest. I ran into this. That's an excellent strategy. I ran into that almost by accident when I was playtesting Decima, and I found that card-based
What's that?
games. What? It's not important. But like For the Queen.
Tekima's the R&D for your RPG.
Oh, good.
Oh,
Thank you.
that's a great tagline.
Mm-hmm.
GoldenLessaGames.com/. But like Quiet Year, For the Queen, Decima, things like that are idea based, like you're giving ideas but not necessarily having to act things out, is a great first step because it's very structured. It has a mechanic that a lot of board game players are used to, which is cards. And it's kind of that first step going into, okay, you are creating something as you play this game. I would literally anybody I knew, like everybody I've ever met has probably played Decima at some point, including a bunch of my friends who were like, what's a board game? What is it? What's an RPG? Okay, you come and the thing. So, and a lot of them actually started getting into role-playing games because they were like, hey, this is pretty cool. And Jason's partner, Wendy, is one of my very good friends. She does not like RPGs at all, but she actually enjoys playing Decima because it's kind of like that middle ground area. And she doesn't feel pressured to act stuff out because that's not in her nature, but she's able to give ideas, which she really enjoys.
I think you brought up a good one. I think For the Queen is great for that. There are a couple of things that are... What's the one with you're a psychic trying to do the dreams?
Mysterium?
Yeah. That's what I was
Oh,
thinking.
yeah.
Because even though there's no RPG mechanic, it's hard to take a look at that funny character that you are and not want to do a voice or talk about how the spirits came to you.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice kind of leader in.
Mm-hmm.
I think games like the Cthulhu games, like Eldritch Horror and Arkham Horror and things like that make you play as a character, even though it's based on a card.
Mhm.
I think that can get people in the habit of like, oh, I am this character. These are my stats. I do these things, and you might get people into role playing that way, being like, hey, remember how much fun it was to like play that character? Like, what if we did that for longer and less, both more and less structured at the same time? Like,
Another shout out to a game called Companion's Tale, which is fantastic and just blew my mind. Tomes ran it for me. He's been around. And if you go to Strategicon, he runs the games on demand. And it just blew my mind. It was the first like we kind of played PBTA and stuff here, but it was the first like real super indie game I'd played. And it's like there's like a full box set. It's a very strange amalgamation of a board game and an RPG. And it's incredible. And you play the companions of like this heroic figure. And it's sort of like For the Queen, and it has like a mapping component, which very much inspired Decima. And like, it's a really great kind of mid-point game. And I highly recommend it. I adore it. And I have it, and I've never actually opened it to play it, and I should. But I love it.
I bought For the Queen and I left it in the apartment of my ex in Ohio by accident, and so I need to get it again, and I'm like sad that I don't have it.
But if you think about it, you've become an ambassador for someone who found it and was like, oh, what's this?
Oh, I almost guarantee you she was like, oh, this is one of Riley's things, and probably gave it away or threw it out after I was done.
Someone else may have
Gave
found
it out to somebody.
Hopefully.
into the universe.
Hope someone found it in the trash can to throw it in.
I actually have 3 games to go from the other direction, from your board game person to get them into role-playing games. Icarus. Icarus is a game where you stack dice and you get kind of prompt cards to come up with the story of the civilization that you're creating. And then when the dice fall, you then have to tell the fall of that civilization.
Oh, that's cool.
Everyone has like their own objectives and things they're trying to do. Some people are in this so that when the fall happens, they can start earning points or winning, whereas the other people are trying to make the world the best place they can.
What's the horror RPG that uses Jenga as the
Dread.
Dread. Just trick them into playing Dread by making them think they're playing Jenga.
There you go.
You've been playing an RPG this whole time. Now your Dread has come true.
The twist.
Second one is going to be King's Dilemma. Nick and I have played this one for several weeks. It is a fantastic game. The writing on it, so good. In that you are advisors to the king, and you all have your kingdoms that you support and that have things that are important to you. and you're trying to get the king to do things in favor of your kingdom or
Ah.
make decisions that help things that are important to you.
What's the
and
mechanic for that one?
voting?
Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
We
can heard
there's
people play that
power
one.
and money,
plays.
and
Okay.
so there's certain things you can do to get more, or you spend it in order to.
So like
to-
resource kind of management.
a
type?
little
Okay.
bit. It's not exactly resource
Yeah,
management
yeah,
because
but
you don't get them back the same way, but you're trying to convince other people to vote your way, and sometimes you just muscle them out by going, "I'm just going to drop 5 power on this," and everyone goes, "Well, I can't match that." So
Oh, okay.
And some for them,
I
it's
guess you
important for
win.
them to have a lot of money, so you can be like, "Hey, throw your vote behind me, and I'll give you 5 coins."
Oh,
And they're like, "Oh, that sounds good. I'll vote behind them."
interesting. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like it is a legacy game, but not
Mhm.
legacy as in like Pandemic Legacy or something like that, or Betrayal Legacy. But it does have over time this happens.
Right.
Uh,
And even though there's no RPG component of it, again, because you're playing the leader of a nation state and you're trying to do all this stuff, you kind of develop an attitude that colors how you interact with people. So it's a baby step into RPG.
I love that gray wheat.
I think a one-sheet
You son of
RPG. I think a one-sheet RPG is also a good entry for board game players in that like something like a Lasers and Feelings or a Witch is Dead or something like that where
Honey Heist.
Yeah, Honey Heist is a great example of one where they don't really feel like they have to do a ton of prep going into it, which I think is what intimidates a lot of people about like I think like obviously they're going to figure out pretty quickly you're playing an RPG, but I think that it like makes them go, okay, I have an hour or two to try this out and see where it goes. And I don't have to think of a backstory. I can just pick from this list, and that's great. And then I can move forward. I think that's a good way to get people who might be like curious but aren't like sold on the idea of getting into it. I think that's a useful thing to do.
Yeah, it's a lower buy-in, so they're
Yeah.
not like spending a bunch of money or anything.
Well, and also if they're sort of ridiculous, like Honey Heist or
Lasers and Feelings.
four Draculas and
Yeah.
or four Sherlock Holmes and Dracula.
Yeah.
Um,
And that one's a good one because there's a mechanic of like I'm trying to figure out this. It's almost like playing
I've
like
never heard
like
of this.
werewolf or something where you're like, okay, who's the person? Like, yeah, a secret role game is a really good way of getting somebody into role playing.
Yeah, exactly, for the same reason. But what I was going to say is that they're so sort of ridiculous, you don't have to feel like there's any stakes, like I'm doing it wrong. No, you're playing a bear who's trying to steal honey from a bank.
Yeah,
Or
or you're playing a Sherlock Holmes who like the premise of that one is everyone's playing a different Sherlock Holmes, but one of them is a vampire. You have to figure out and like they each, but even the ones who aren't
this.
vampires have one quirk that might make them seem like a vampire, like oh you hate garlic or you don't want to be in the sun, and so you have to try to figure. The one who's a vampire has 2 traits. You have to figure out which one has 2. It's sort of like that. Yeah,
That's amazing.
it's very fun.
I
love
really
it.
want to play that now. Oh, and the last one, Dead of Winter.
Oh yeah.
Yes, that one also has objectives that you're trying to accomplish that are secret from everyone else. So yeah, you may want to hoard food from people or cause a bunch of noise to get other people killed. So yeah, zombie game, also board
Nice.
Cool. All right.
game. Yes.
Emily, I hope that helps. Good luck in your quest to bring more people into the TTRPG hobby,
And
specifically your wife.
If you don't, if you're not watching this live or watching the whole video, Burke also recommended Betrayal at House on the Hill, which I think is also a really good one for that. It's completely a board game, but it definitely encourages RPG play.
Yeah.
Nice. Very good. All right. Mailbag number 3.
Well, I guess it's my turn.
It's your turn.
Dear handsome Kimmy Happy Jack plus number of guests, long time listener, etc., etc., etc. Lightning round question. When you are starting a non-fantasy campaign, do you have a favorite published adventure to use to introduce people to said genre/campaign world? Yours and Hera, Daniel, Dan of Tomorrow. P.S. Dekuma has saved my Worldwide Wrestling campaign at least twice, and for that, Kimmy, I thank you. PPS drink. My drink was empty, but
All right.
Shh! Don't tell them that.
There, I got some drops. It's legal.
All right. I don't have anything to say for this email other than thank you. I'm glad you like Dekuma. Ready, go, friends.
Well, I do have something to say to Dan of Tomorrow. I'm running a Deadlands game for some friends who are vaguely familiar with the world, this is just a home game, so sorry, you're not going to see that televised. And I actually went to one of the old classic game adventures that came with the GM screen from way, way, way back in the 90s sometime, and I'm using that, and it's called This Harrowed Ground, and I think it's a pretty good introduction to get people into the Deadlands feel, in that there are good themes, and it introduces the fact of the supernatural and gets people on the horror side of being trapped in a little town somewhere and not having resources or anyone else to come and save them, but also having to solve this mystery or figure out what's going on. I can't be more specific because I have a player of the game right here as well, but I think it's a good introduction.
Nice.
I played a recent version of Deadlands for people that had not played Deadlands at all, and I used the adventure that came with the GM screen. I don't want to get too much into it. You're trapped in a small town, but yes, it gives them a run through of all the weird stuff in the world.
I said before stream, this is an issue for me. I play non-fantasy campaigns, and I also do adventures from books, but I don't have a non-fantasy adventure from a book that I can think of that I would have done. But what I have recommended is that what I used to love when I was younger, first starting out in role-playing back in the 90s, I was playing a lot of World of Darkness games, and I used to love buying the city-based source books that were basically like, here's all the things that are happening in this region, and it was a really good way for me to kind of like help visualize, both for myself and for players, the world that they were in, because it would be like, okay, now this city has, here's where the werewolves hang out in this city, here's where the vampires are like meeting up at, and so gave the world like a really fleshed out vibe, and it made them understand like, okay, here's how this horror like setting lays on top of what I would recognize in my real world as something. And so I like those kind of things. And then again, I mentioned earlier the one-shot games. Like, one thing I like about Lasers and Feelings, I like the way like it quickly like gives you like a sheet you can just roll, and those things are there right there. So then you don't have to worry about prepping too much if you just want to get the players used to a setting.
Yeah.
It's really quick and easy to design a setting for them. So
Yeah, I love when I've played through a bunch of these. I love the ones that have some sort of like low stakes combat up front, like for the same reason you're talking about the board game, so I could learn those rules real quick.
Yeah,
because that takes a lot of anxiety off of my shoulders. I'm like, okay, I did a combat, it's okay, all right, no problem. And then like moving in, then like role playing and immersing myself in the game is a lot easier because I've got those basic mechanics down.
yeah.
Agreed. I was being a smartass earlier, but for a real answer, the Masks of Nyarlathotep, that opening, I love it. You all get letters from, this person that, you've had a long history. This person's a reporter.
That's for which system?
The Call of Cthulhu system.
Okay.
So yeah, you get this letter, you all show up at this hotel, and you're waiting for this person. They never show up. You go to the front desk. They're like, oh yeah, he's up in room, yada yada you. So you go up to yada yada you, and you see the doors cracked
I'm your
open.
neighbor in yada yada why?
What?
Ah.
Who's in yada yada do? No? All right, it's all right. We'll keep going. Oh yeah, you go up there. There's blood on the floor. There's angry cultists that try and attack you and kill you, and it's nuts right out the gate.
That's awesome.
Agreed.
All right.
Yeah.
I had another one, but my mind is kind of crashing here. Oh, it's not exactly a starter adventure that way, but I would recommend, and this is urban fantasy, but if you look at the Dresden system games where they actually have building the city and building what's going on is baked into the start of the game, as just like making your characters, and that is also very much a way to introduce everyone to how the game's going to work and how the concept is going to go. And you could probably modify that for other non-fantasy games if you wanted to.
I love games that do that.
I'll say, speaking of modifying fantasy games to a non-fantasy setting, there's a book. It was a 5e like compatible book, but it was I can't remember if it's called Unchained or Uncaged, but it was a series they did, and each one took a different like mythological monster.
Oh,
that was, like,
Uncaged Anthology.
Uncaged Anthology.
Yeah.
And so each one, again, it's designed for 5e, so it's very fantasy, but it's independent. Well, I think it was on DM's Guild, but it was great because each one took a known figure from mythology or folklore and then built a story around them. And a lot of it was playing off of the things that the players would already know out of character about the legend or the story that was being told, but then twisting it in a different way. And none of those, and there's lots of different genres happening within this one anthology book. And they're all one-shots that can be, if you wanted to, you could string them together into a story. Again, even though they're set up for 5e, I feel like they could be very easily adapted to other settings because it's more about recognizing the mythology and the monsters than it is necessarily the mechanics of the game rules.
Yeah, and that's a great one because it's from a very feminist point of view.
Yeah.
So it's taking these very like patriarchal myths for the most part and kind of turning them on their heads. So you're seeing different like Medusas from a totally different point of view.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So it's I love that stuff.
It's a great book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I submitted and I for like I think there was the third one and I didn't do it. But
Yeah,
like,
I got
will
too
keep
late.
submitting and keep someday I will write something that will be a pitch good enough to get in their books. They're so good.
You wrote your own books.
Cool.
I know I do, but I love those books. Like anything
No, they're
like
great.
super feminism and like oh yeah, like women are super and empowered. Like just speaks to my heart. So I'm like I will write a thing for 5e. I'll do it. It'll be okay. But I submitted that. Probably why my submission was probably not. I was like, there's gonna be stats here. Someone will give me stats that will work for this thing. But here's the story.
Yeah.
So we should just collab on that then.
Yeah, so-
I'll do the stat.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
did story.
I'll just write an indie TTRPG that's super feminist and like turns on. Wait a minute. Damn it. Okay,
Stop giving away the free stuff.
write it down.
I know we're not
What's
supposed
the
to
magic
give
word? Campaign agnostic.
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly.
I know we're not supposed to give fantasy ones, but Weekend at Strahd, I absolutely loved. Essentially, Strahd is dead, and it's a Weekend at Bernie's. For those of you that are, from the 2000s and after, Weekend at Bernie's was a movie. No, Google it.
They all know Weekend at Bernie's too.
Right, that's the classic. But yeah, so you're just trying to get through the weekend and keep Strahd alive.
Love it.
It's got a great soundtrack. Comes with it.
Before we close out, I do want to say something to Rose RPGs. I will absolutely go ahead and look up The Rush by Cy Spurrier. Was recommended as a comic that has very Deadlands vibes. So I just want to announce that to anybody who might also be interested in that.
Very nice. All right. Thank you for joining us for season 31, episode 13. I like that it's 3113. It makes me happy.
Palindrome.
Yeah. Please visit gemroomgames.com to support our amazing indie designer of the month, Gemroom Games. Thank you to our chat mod, James V, who worked very hard tonight. We had a lot of people who needed to get kicked tonight.
A lot of
Bots. There weren't people.
They were clearly not bots. It says right on it, not a bot.
Not a
It's
bot.
literally like that's why
07.
they had to keep making new accounts to come in because James kept blocking them from.
Blocking
God.
them from the bot. Jeez.
Anyway,
Gosh, James, way to do your job great and be wonderful.
we love you. Anyway, thanks to our amazing Patreons who keep us ad-free and independent. You can join their amazing ranks at happyjacks.org/Patreon. That's why we get to talk about whatever we want and we don't have to talk about the OGL like everybody else has to talk about. And
Nothing else to say.
no, seriously.
I say as someone who talked about it for
Open
quite a while
goldfish
before we
license?
were on my-
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Oh man. My name is Kimmy.
My name is Riley.
My name's Jameson.
I'm Taco Cat.
Yes. No.
Well,
And
we're talking about palindromes.
I know. It's very cute.
Do you want me to be Evil Olive instead?
I like
Or-
both of those
or-
so much.
You know what? Tonight, I just want you to be Nick. Can you be Nick for us? Because we like Nick.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
You don't have to be somebody
I'm
else for us
Nick.
to love you.
I love that as we said that, James banned not a bot def 17.
Ah, one more
They're
time.
getting up
They
there.
got
Trying
to
to-
17.
Oh.
All right, tonight we're going to leave you the song. We're going to leave you with a song called Side Quest by our friends, the Dread Crew of Oddwood. They're awesome. They're amazing. They do heavy metal with acoustic instruments, and they're our friends from Fair. You can find them at thedreadcrewofoddwood.com. Yes, you have to type the. I've spoken with them about it. It's fine. And yeah, and we will see you next week. Thank you all so much, and bye.
Bye.
Far too long since our last raid. No bounties bound for 42.
and began to